Hi and welcome. I'm Steve Martirano, and this is the Behavioral Corner. You're invited to hang with us as we discuss the ways we live today, the choices we make, the things we do, and how they affect our health and well-being. So you're on the corner, the Behavioral Corner. Please hang around a while. Hey guys, here we are. We're back on the Behavioral Corner. My name is Steve Martirano, and I hope you'll hang with us. What the heck? It's a half nice day where I am, and I hope it's okay by you. We're going to talk about, what we do here on the Behavioral Corner is try to focus in on areas of life that we all share in common, and that have a profound effect on our, behavioral health, the way we feel spiritually, emotionally, physically, which is a big topic. But as we roll towards the dreaded April 15th date for taxes, naturally money becomes important in finances. Although money is never far from anybody's mind, it's something that is can be tremendously stressful. So we're going to talk about finances, but from a unique perspective. We're going to take a kind of long 1,000-yard look at cryptocurrency in general, but specifically Bitcoin. Because if you thought money and your finances were nuts before cryptocurrency, and you're trying to catch up on the learning curve about this thing, well, you're like me going, oh my God, I don't know what this stuff is. What are Bitcoins? So what we do is we go find ourselves somebody that knows a lot more than we do about it. And we think we've done that in the person of Jason DiLuzio. Jason is born and raised in Philadelphia. So he's a native son as far as we're concerned. And he's lived in Philadelphia. He's moved since, but he was there for a very long time where he operated an ATM business. He also co-founded something called Bitcoin Philadelphia, which is probably not operating now, but it was a sort of a study group or a gathering of like-minded people who wanted to know more about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in particular. And they used to gather at a train station in Philadelphia, the train station, to learn and discuss about Bitcoin. He's a longtime advisor to a company called LibertyX. They are America's largest network of locations where you can actually buy Bitcoins instantly with your debit card or cash. And he, as I said, he is going to give us chapter and verse on Bitcoin. Jason, thanks so much for hanging with us on the corner.
My pleasure, Steve.
Can you lend me a couple of Bitcoins till my brother straightens out?
That's the first rule about Bitcoin: is don't let go of your Bitcoin, not your keys, not your coins. Don't lend them out. Don't let anybody else hold them on your behalf. They're a bearer asset. You want to keep a tight grip on them.
Well, it's also the beauty of Bitcoins is that nobody actually can hold them. Anyway, let's begin at the beginning.
Yeah.
What is a Bitcoin?
No, there's actually really isn't a very good, nobody's settled on a description yet of what it is, but what it is a way of transferring value from one person to another that is uncensorable, unconfiscatable, and also can't be stopped, essentially, which falls into uncensorable. And then and it's also a currency that can't be devalued arbitrarily by anyone, really.
So Bitcoin's money. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, it is. It's a form of money. It's a new form of money that we're still trying to wrap our heads around. But
it is a new form of money. That's what's interesting about this. First of all, how old is Bitcoin?
I was born 2009, January 3rd, 2009 was when the first block was mined.
These things sprang up as a result of the financial crisis of 2008. Is that what happened?
Yeah, the founder, this person or group of people that go by the name Satoshi Nakamoto, he was pretty active in the groups, and the first Bitcoin block that was published had reference to a headline in the Financial Times of England, and it said "Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks." So, and then it had the date, and so that was a way that he could kind of fix Bitcoin in time. You know how you take a photo of a newspaper or something like that, but also it was a statement that he was fed up with how the state was handling money, how the states have been handling money, and how they're bailing out their friends, and the common person kind of gets the shaft.
And the bill.
Yeah, well, the bill. That's same thing.
And the bill. So tell me about so this is a technology that creates something that heretofore did not exist. Forget about what it is. And it was a result of, as you say, this mysterious Nakamoto guy. So the myths and stories around him are amazing. They're right out of Hollywood, frankly. He disappeared now, which is an interesting way to describe a guy who never appeared in the first place. Suddenly he's now gone. Do you believe him to be one person, or I'm sure it doesn't matter, but I'm just curious. Do you think he's a one guy?
I feel like it's one person. I have that feeling, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a group of people. But the more people that know, I would be, for those people to have kept the secret this long makes me, the further we go on, the less likely I believe that there's multiple people involved, just because you think it would come to light.
Well, that's extraordinary. I don't want to get too far off the path here, but the idea that one person has an idea that no one else seemed to have completed the thought of, executes it, and becomes this is incredible. Because no matter what praise and credit we give a guy like Edison, other people were working on this stuff that Edison ultimately perfected. The idea that somebody wakes up and goes, I'm pissed off that they lost all this money, my money, your money. I didn't have anything to do with this. Now they're going to ask us to bail them out. I'm going to do this. Strikes me as
and what he had done is he had actually, he had taken a bunch of different technologies that already existed and kind of cobbled them together. He was just,
but he still had, he did have that moment of clarity when he went, you're right, he didn't invent everything that created a Bitcoin, but he took it all together and went, how can this be used to solve that problem?
And it's a problem that people have been trying to solve for 30, 40 years now, how to create a digital cash that did not require a trusted third party to mediate, whether, to prevent counterfeiting and double spending and stuff like that.
So anyway, we don't know who he is or where he went, but do you think he got phenomenally wealthy as a result of this?
I feel like he might be dead. There's one guy they suspect. It's this guy, Hal Finney. He passed away. Or I think that he may have burned the coins, where made them unspendable. That's also possible. Or he could have just destroyed all the keys. So, back in the early days, Bitcoin, there's a story of Laszlo who bought two pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. It's the first known real world transaction of Bitcoin for something else. And this guy, he has probably got hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. So 10,000 Bitcoin was no big deal for him. These early days, I think it's like a $500 million pizza right now, something like that. But
what was it when he paid? What was it when he bought the two pies for $120?
It was $20.
Right.
I mean, no, 10,000 Bitcoin for $20 is what it was. You can get 10,000 Bitcoin for $20. It's unbelievable. But the point was, it was valueless. That's what I'm getting at. It was valueless. You had to convince people to take it. And one of the ways that he could have increased value, since there's only a fixed supply, there's only going to be 21 million Satoshi. It was very important that it was a fair launch, that there was a fair launch, that the coins were distributed evenly. If one person had it all, what's the point? It's just like the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve issues the money. So Satoshi's going to be the new Federal Reserve. People are going to say, no, thank you. So it's possible that he could have burned the coins, destroyed them, though he never told anybody that he did. I actually called them Schrodinger's coins because they both exist and they don't exist. And if they do exist, if they're still spendable, it would be a bit chaotic for a while if all of a sudden we saw some of Satoshi's coins move. But if they don't exist anymore and they're not spendable, well, all of a sudden those 21 million Bitcoins available, now there'll be 4 million less or 3 million less. And then there's also the 3 million known Bitcoin that have been confirmed lost. So, we're all of a sudden we're down to like only 12 million Bitcoin.
I want to get into how they're actually created, but I don't want to leave this for a second.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So there's no way that this mysterious Nakamoto could have created a cache of bitcoins that sat outside of his work. He creates the Bitcoin and sets the number at 21 million so that it can be a stable currency. There's no way he could have created 1,000 bitcoins that he pushed over here that had nothing to do with the rest of it.
No, he absolutely could have done that. Actually, Satoshi's coins are just our best guesses as to what his coins are, because back in the early days, there's only 3 or 4 people mining Bitcoin. So the other people identified themselves as, hey, it wasn't me, those aren't mine. And by default, those are his. So, as more people came on the network, and when he, his last message was like, hey, I'm done with this. I'll see you guys later. I gave the keys to the repository to the software repository to this guy, Gavin. And he's like, I'm out. But that doesn't mean he stopped mining, right? He could have still been mining quietly in the background, could be mining to this day.
Well, isn't that destabilizing? I mean, if Bitcoin's value is predicated on its finite number, and that's involatile, you can't go beyond 21 million. But there's some unaccounted for Bitcoins floating around out there, the number of which nobody even knows.
No. I'm sorry. It's not that they're on. I mean, the supply cap is known. They're all accounted for within that 21 million. They're not on the side. It's just, I thought you were talking about specifically
No, not that he was holding them, but that he was holding them and no one knew.
Exactly.
There's no chance of that.
No chance.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take your word for it. So how are they in fact made or created a Bitcoin?
So Bitcoin are rewarded to individuals we call miners, Bitcoin miners. And these miners, what they do is they try and solve, the Bitcoin network presents a math problem. It's actually not even a math problem, it's a guessing game. And they say, I'm going to guess a number between 1 and 1 million. And the first person that guesses that number correctly, I will give you X amount of Bitcoin. Right now it's 6.25 Bitcoin as a reward, and the privilege to build a block of transactions, which is just essentially just a batch of transactions that have been submitted for entry into the blockchain. And you'll get that right to submit these transactions and the reward. And essentially, this is how Bitcoin is secured. The miners are the security guards to make sure individuals can't try and spend the same money twice. The Bitcoin reward, the block reward, is the incentive to do this because it costs money. Because the way you get this number is by running computers very quickly and just brute force guessing. So you're just shouting numbers at the Bitcoin network saying 100,000, 100,002, 100,003, and you just keep guessing. And so there's thousands and thousands of miners guessing at the same time until somebody hits it, and then they reward it and start all over again. And this happens on average every 10 minutes.
And at the beginning of Bitcoin, as I understand it, it was simple enough. You could probably mine for a Bitcoin on your desktop. That now is out of the question, and only very large entities are doing the majority of this mining. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah. You need to have a reliable source of a large amount of power. So people will generally go. They'll actually, a popular place is aluminum smelting plants.
Say again.
Aluminum smelting plants.
Yeah.
Because aluminum takes a lot of electricity to smelt. So they had these massive connections. They were connected to the grid very well, so they could bring a lot of electricity in. So you've got these massive electric pipes coming in, and then you have just a warehouse. I imagine what the Jetro warehouse looks like next to the stadium, right? Like one of those places with just server racks full of these. Basically, they're shoebox-sized devices that just, and each one of these is just guessing numbers.
Crunching numbers, yeah. They also have to be in a cooler climate, don't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's just a function of any kind of data center wants to be. They run hot. The byproduct of electrical resistance is heat. So you've got to, the more north you are, the cooler the climate, the less expense you have to spend on cooling the facility.
We're talking to Jason DiLuzio. He knows obviously a lot about Bitcoin, and he's giving us chapter and verse on what this means. I want to really, sort of get it on, get it to the ground level here. So if I go to an exchange, is that how it works? Because I'm not going to mine. If I wanted to purchase a Bitcoin, how do I do it?
Well, there's any number of ways you can do it. You could mail me a check, and I could send you some Bitcoin, right? I would do that for you because I trust you. We have a relationship. I don't think you're going to scam me. That is not the best way to do it. What I'm getting at is that it's just like any kind of money exchange. You go to a money changer, before you go on a trip internationally. So one way is you could download an app on your phone. One of them I use is called river.com. They'll just take it right out of your checking account, and then they'll give you Bitcoin. Another way to do it is to go to what's called a Bitcoin Kiosk, a Bitcoin ATM. That's what actually LibertyX does. The company I work with, we actually have 10,000 ATMs across the country, just regular ATMs you would see in a normal bar and restaurant. And these are also capable of selling Bitcoin. You would have a Bitcoin wallet. It's like your email account. So you have Gmail. You can choose Gmail, you could choose Yahoo, you could choose AOL as your email provider. It doesn't matter who the provider is. It does. Should have not scammers, because these are going to be the custodying your coins for you. In there you have a Bitcoin address. For example, with LibertyX, you would give us your Bitcoin address. We give you a 6-digit number. You go to the ATM, you stick your card in, pay us, and then we send you the Bitcoin.
I hope I'm the only one hearing this. You're breaking up a little bit. I don't know.
Am I?
Yeah.
Hold on a second here.
Maybe you can move a little bit or get out from under the street light there on the corner.
I think that's a little better there, right?
Yeah, it might be. I hope so. All right. So I got my Bitcoin. It's in my my wallet. How do I know I won't get my pocket picked?
Well, that's kind of that's the big thing with Bitcoin, is that it's a bearer asset. So you can essentially have your pocket picked. You've got to treat it like cash. If you have a wallet on your phone and you lose your phone and you haven't written down what we call seed phrase, it's about 12-word password. If you haven't written that down and your Bitcoin was on your phone, and your phone's gone, the funds are gone. This is essentially digital cash. You need to think of it as cash in your pocket, and treat it as such. So make sure you put your wallet in your front pocket when there's pickpockets around.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to keep moving around so we get a little better connection, because it's still breaking up. But okay, so I mean, you keep alluding to this thing as money. As you know, a lot of people in the financial world say, no, it's not money. Besides the pizza, the 100,000 Bitcoin pizza, what are people? Give me some real world applications where Bitcoin is a store of value that's traded back and forth or used back and forth.
Well, so money is actually defined by a couple of things. One of them is store of value. One of them is medium of exchange, and the third is unit of account. So you can use money. You can use any of those three aspects of money and call something money. So right now, it's mostly used as a store of value. People like gold. Yeah, it's a savings technology. It's a way. If you don't trust the government, if you don't trust the Federal Reserve, if you feel like they're not being good stewards of the US dollar, then you have a choice, and you can exit into a different currency that you might think is better, or a different store of value, such as gold. Some people keep it in, in commodity with copper, and then others. Now we have Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a good choice. The government's been very successful in kind of neutering the power of gold through all their kind of market mechanisms, where a lot of people say that the price of gold is artificially suppressed because then that hides inflation, which they don't really want inflation to go out of control. So using it as a store of value is one way of using it as money. But there are people that actually use it as a currency, as a way to spend money in order to get a product. There's a story I know of actually hair salon owners. It's like middle-aged women. They're buying hair from India. They buy human hair for their shops, for their hair shops. Well, you try and send some money to India. It's not easy. It's extremely difficult. They have actually very strict currency controls, their capital controls. You're only even allowed to, I went to India, you're only allowed to enter with so much money in your pocket. I mean, it's like a couple $100. It's really, really strict. So what they do is they demand Bitcoin. They say, if you want this hair, you need to send us Bitcoin. So it's a way to kind of get around restrictions that you find
Yeah, there is a class of people who have recognized that utility, and they are drug dealers and terrorists, who more than most would want to end run governments and regulations and identity problems. Is that what Bitcoin is really all about? A way to facilitate bad behavior?
It's certainly not what it's about. It's not why it was invented. Criminals use cars as well. Bank robbers use cars to get away from the cops. It is, it's uncensorable money. So the bad guys can use it to transfer value just as much as the good guys. But people do kind of pick on Bitcoin for that. They've done studies. They say that the illicit use of Bitcoin is around, it's like 5% of the volume is for illicit stuff happenings. But another response I have is the U.S. dollar is by far more popular than Bitcoin for illicit activity. It's the preferred currency of bad guys around the world.
Well, it's because it's the reserve currency for the whole world.
Right. It's the most liquid. It's the most liquid.
But if Bitcoin threatens that in the future, near future, then it will serve the same purpose that the dollar is serving now. I'm not saying it's going to make drug dealing or terrorism proliferate, but it's certainly the early adopters were guys like that. This is perfect. Seamless.
Some of them are out there. There's some guys that were selling drugs on Silk Road. And
that's right. He's in jail now for a long time. Anyway, so really simply, is this legal? Is this legal? Is Bitcoin legal? Okay, it is legal.
In the United States, it is legal currently. In most countries, it's legal. I think India, actually, speaking of the devil, was just talking. There was something in the news today about India's going to, for the third time, they're talking about banning Bitcoin. But
didn't China try to, I wouldn't say nationalize, but set up a cryptocurrency exchange or bank or something that would make it more traditional in terms of being controllable by central authorities? They did that, didn't they? And then they abandoned it.
I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to. I do know that there's this thing out there that some people are calling central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. And I believe China is actively piloting one, and it's essentially just the digital yuan. It's the yuan, but in this digitized version. It's honestly, it's not really, it's not a cryptocurrency. It's just a different way of accounting for their existing currency. Even the U.S. dollar is 95% digital now as it is. It's not the digital aspect of it that's what's interesting. It's how it's accounted for, how the transactions are verified, and the counterfeiting is prevented.
That's interesting that you say the dollar is 95% digital now. And if you don't think about that, you go, that's nonsense. The dollar is nothing like, I have dollars in my other room, in my bedroom. But overwhelmingly, you're right. I make a certain amount of money. It's directly deposited into an account. I pay my bills directly out of the account. I never see that money. The overwhelming majority of the money I have is somewhere else. I don't know. So that's an interesting take on it. Jason DiLuzio, our guest, we're trying to learn as much as we can about Bitcoin, not because I'm going to invest in this, because I can't afford it. What is the Bitcoin trading for right now?
Today it's around 55 or 56,000.
56,000. So I don't have that lying around. What if I wanted to buy Bitcoins? What do I do?
You can buy a penny's worth, a dollar's worth, $10 worth, whatever you want.
So
It's actually
they are
they
divisible.
are they are divisible. They're in fact technically they're infinitely divisible. So the Bitcoin price goes to $50 million a coin. It doesn't matter because there will be lower and lower denominations. Right now, the U.S. dollar, the smallest denomination is a penny. Well, if all of a sudden the U.S. dollar's value went up, and this has happened historically, they have to keep creating smaller denominations. We would have a half penny or a quarter penny or something that represents these smaller values. The unit price of one Bitcoin is pretty irrelevant. It's just kind of a way to keep track of its purchasing power.
Well, so I can buy in, but after all, I mean, how small a fraction of something that's valued at 55,000 is going to make any difference in my life? I mean, if somebody came to you and said, Jason, I've got $1,000 lying around, what kind of a position in Bitcoin will that get me?
Well, if they had spent $1,000 on this day last year, they would have bought 1/3 of a Bitcoin.
Okay.
Because Bitcoin was at $3,000 or $4,000, maybe a quarter of a Bitcoin. And then here we are 1 year later, and it actually touched 60 grand last night. It was 60 grand.
I mean, I get that, but if the Queen had wheels, she'd be a taxi cab. I didn't buy it a year. I didn't buy it a year ago. I'm asking you, and I look at a $55,000 price point, and I go, well, what is that going to go to $100,000? Is it going to go to 200? Then it would make sense.
Yeah.
But how sustainable is that? Some people are saying this is a bubble and all bubbles burst. This growth in the value of Bitcoin at this rate, is it sustainable?
I think so, especially as long as these central banks keep printing money and pumping money into the economy. Not pumping money into the economy, that's what they're doing. I guess they are some of it's going into the economy, some's going into their friends' hands. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a world of unlimited fiat money, there is literally no limit on how expensive Bitcoin can get because the money going into it that it's priced in is infinite.
Would Bitcoin's value go down if governments like the United States government cleared up, and I know it's hypothetical, cleared up its debt, started showing a surplus and fixed its roads and bridges and gave everybody universal health care?
Yeah.
Would the price of Bitcoin collapse?
I absolutely think so. Yeah.
So this is I know you guys are evangelical about this thing, but it's clear that it is unstable. There's a possibility. First of all, nothing stops someone else from creating another cryptocurrency. In fact, there are other cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, it seems to me, has prospered because it was the first in, and that's a standard phenomenon. But nothing stops someone. There's another Nakamoto out there, and he's capable of sitting down one day and going, I'm going to knock the blocks out. Does that worry you?
No, it doesn't. Not at all. There isn't ever going to be another Nakamoto. Bitcoin can only be invented once. Everything else is a knockoff. It's a copy. It's not an original. And we have something we call it the Immaculate Conception in Bitcoin because it was born of innocence, right? This was just a science project that this guy just created, and he's like, hey, I don't know if it's going to work, right? And we'll see. And he just throws it out there, and it's just all of a sudden just started vacuuming up value from around across the world. Anybody else? So now we know it works, right? We see it works. And so because, hey, well, what's going to stop me from going and making my own currency? Well, I mean, nothing really. You can do it, but people are going to go, well, who are you? Why am I going to give you my money now when I can just go buy this? Like, I'm not going to give you the right of the printing press. Why are you going to earn what's not the arbitrage, but the money the governments make off printing money, right? It costs them a penny to print $1, so they make that 99-cent spread in between.
I hear you. Your faith in the supremacy of this is I understand.
Yeah, and
just am not.
we have a 10-year history right now, 11 years of it not being
Yeah, but we're talking about money. We're talking about money,
yeah,
which has a thousands
yeah,
of years of history, and it's
right.
changed over the years. I still wonder, and I don't know very much about this, so maybe my wonder is ignorance. That what was created in the mind of a very clever person can be created again, even if it's in a form, after all, that you're not thinking about now because it doesn't exist.
Well,
Because
sure, yeah,
bitcoins didn't exist, and then one day they did. I'm not.
right.
I'm saying that there is a potential that someone will create something that surpasses this in its
Yeah, I mean,
efficacy and everything
absolutely.
else. All right. Well, so anyway, uh, with regard to
But I mean, just
you
let me
know,
the idea that that would happen, like this is a problem that somebody has been working on for 30, 40 years to
mm-hmm.
solve. One guy hit a big, is there a non-zero chance of that happening? Yes. But, since Bitcoin's been brought into existence, there have been thousands of other cryptocurrencies that have tried to supplant Bitcoin, and none of them have been able to do it.
Yeah, it seems like a marketing. That seems like a marketing problem, not a. There's nothing. There's nothing inherently inferior technologically or in any other way in those other currencies. It's just they can't grab the share of the market
Right,
that Bitcoin has.
right,
It's like
which
It's
is
like Google. I could create a search engine tomorrow that's every bit
right,
as good as Google. I'm not going to move Google.
right.
I'm just not. Not for
And
any
what's it
other
going
reason.
to? Well,
Go
no.
ahead.
There's the reason would be you come up with an idea that is like leaps and bounds better than
Yes.
Google, right? You say that Google has such a strong network effect, and it has a lot of what we'll call it liquidity, right? Money
Yep.
goes to where the liquidity is, and money is a network effect. So it's really, really difficult to unseat something that has such a network effect, like the
I
U.S.
get you.
dollar. Yeah,
No, I understand.
yeah,
Let me end on this as and I'm pushing back to sort of that's what I do here.
sure.
The other thing that might disrupt this rosy scenario about bitcoins is market manipulation, because no matter what it is, if it's a tradable item and it's a commodity, uh, and there's a market, that market is susceptible to bad actors. Isn't it true that the overwhelming majority of bitcoins that are held by a very small number of people? Isn't it something like 13% of all the bitcoins that have been created belong to just a couple of people, groups anyway?
I'm not really sure. I don't think so. I know there is a concentration amongst the early adopters, right? Because you could mine it on your computer and you would get 50 blocks. I mean, there's people that have tens of thousands of Bitcoin.
Yeah,
But again, you compare it to what? Compare it to the US dollar. I think we have a big concentration of the US dollar as well, amongst wealthy individuals. So, yes, are there people that can move markets with we call them whales, right? Yeah,
mm-hmm.
sure. Um, but that's the way it is in any market. The people that hold all the chips get to make the rules. So
True that, but as long as the rules are easily understood by everybody else, I'm going to leave you with something Mark Cuban said, and you probably are familiar with the quote. Cuban's a pretty sharp guy. I think he holds a bunch of cryptocurrency, probably Bitcoin, but he did say not so long ago that this stuff is not going to ever become the dollar in the sense we've been talking about it until grandma knows how to use it. We're light years away from that, if ever, don't you think?
I think the same thing would have been said about email in like 1995.
Yeah,
And now
grandma still
grandmas,
can't. Well, I don't know
well,
about.
I don't know about you, but I know a lot of grandmas that are using emails and FaceTimes and iPads, and yeah, there's a user interface problem, right? There's a lot of work that still needs to be done.
Yeah,
As for whether it's going to supplant the dollar, I don't know. I don't think it's going to necessarily supplant the dollar, but I think when the dollar fails, Bitcoin will be one of the last things standing.
yeah. Okay,
So,
Jason.
yeah.
So just in the final note, in that regard, is a purchase of Bitcoin a bet against the dollar and, in fact, the American way of life?
Well, I think the dollar and the American way of life are two completely different things. I think America is an idea, I mean, the Federal Reserve, which
Yeah,
issues
the idea is the dollar.
Well, no, I mean, I think, we have a constitution, we have these fundamental ideas that the country was formed around. And in 1913, a cabal of bankers formed a private bank and got the exclusive right to issue the US dollar.
Did they do that on Jekyll? That's the Jekyll Island.
That's Jekyll Island. I don't think that had anything to do with America. I mean, sure, is it how we project our power? Absolutely. But again, I don't necessarily think the US government is America. America is made up of its people and its idea. The government, I mean, the country, the Constitution was made in such a way where we could throw away the government and start over again when these guys got corrupt. And I don't know, I think these guys, we need a little bit of a flushing right now. And
well, you don't get much of an argument with me on that. I don't know that, but you and I agree on that. Fundamentally, I just don't know that Bitcoin is that instrument. But anyway, you have done a world of good here, as far as I'm concerned, trying to get our heads around Bitcoin. We really appreciate your time, Jason DiLuzio. I got to ask you before you go. Your family business in Philadelphia was a garden center. It wasn't that Four Seasons place where they had the press conference.
No, I was out in Delco. That's funny.
That's too bad. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. Whenever I have questions, can I rely on you to be my go-to guy?
Please reach out anytime. Any of your listeners that might have questions, I'm always happy to talk and answer anything.
Thanks, Jason DiLuzio, for hanging with us on the corner, and the rest of you as well. Thanks for hanging with us here. Don't forget, you should look for the. Remember, I found the phone booth on the corner. That phone booth is live. Call it. If you have any questions, you can just leave a message and we can talk to you about it. Look on Facebook. You'll see what that's all about. And follow us everywhere else. Take care. We're out.
At Retreat Behavioral Health, we believe in the power of connection and quality care. We offer comprehensive, holistic, and compassionate treatment from industry-leading experts. Call 855-802-6600 and begin your journey today.
That's it for now. And make us a habit, hanging out at the Behavioral Corner. And when we're not hanging, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on the Behavioral Corner.